Hi, my name is Kelsey Lee, and the topic that I chose to present and do a case study on was the E. coli outbreak at Jack in the Box. So the first step was to gather background information on the situation. The strain of E. coli presented was first seen in 1982 in the undercooked burgers of McDonald's in Oregon and Michigan. E. coli is a bacteria that can cause bloody diarrhea and extremely painful abdominal cramps. If acquired through uncooked red meat, many young children and elderly are at risk of developing hemolytic uremic syndrome, a disease that has no cure and treatment and can possibly lead to death. Even though a number of people were affected and fell ill, it wasn't seen as a lethal problem and people soon forgot about it. Step 2 is to analyze the current situation. In 1993, a Jack in the Box in Seattle was promoting its new Monster Burger. However, they were selling undercooked burgers to a number of people, and that's ultimately what led to an outbreak of the same E. coli strand seen in the McDonald's situation. The biggest weakness of the situation was that they could not immediately locate the source of the contaminated meat. Apparently, a single cow has the potential to contaminate 8 tons of ground beef. When they did finally identify the supplier, they figured out that the ground beef contained meat from 443 different cattle from 5 different slaughterhouses from farms in 6 different states. I think this could have been a good opportunity for people to further research into E. coli and learn more about it, since it sort of just got pushed aside after the McDonald's case. It took an epidemic to occur for it to become a serious issue, and action should have been taken before that. Step 3 is to identify the core issues. One of the biggest problems was that 4 children had died and 700 more people had fallen ill because of the Monster Burgers. As I mentioned before, the cause of the disease was the E. coli in the contaminated beef. The E. coli bacteria is spread when feces from the cattle is passed around in feedlots. Cattle that are fed grass are less susceptible to carrying and harboring E. coli. However, many cattle are being fed corn, which develops acid in their stomach, and E. coli thrives in acidic environments. Cattle are covered in their own manure before they're slaughtered, and since cows are shoved in tight quarters together, it's inevitable that some of the meat will become contaminated. So when humans ingest the uncooked meat containing E. coli, gastric shock won't diffuse the bacteria. The priority at that moment was to recall all of the contaminated meat and find the source, and for Jack in the Box to not sell any more of the Monster Burgers until further notice. Step 4 is to analyze alternatives. One approach to prevent this from happening in the future is to develop new food inspection systems that will accurately and consistently be followed. They followed through with this and called what they called hazard analysis and critical control points. This organization required microbial testing for harmful bacteria like E. coli. Another approach is to create more solutions to avoid this contamination before the food is even packaged and supplied to the buyers. The idea and goal should be to eliminate the risk of infection and avoid contamination early. Step 5 is recommendations. My first recommendation is to ensure that safe handling instructions for meat are being followed correctly, such as keeping it at the correct temperatures, washing hands and surfaces, and cooking it appropriately. It is important for managers and employees to execute these rules properly for the safety and health of the public. I also recommend that the public is educated about the effects of these foodborne illnesses so they can differentiate between things such as E. coli and regular food poisoning. It was mentioned that many people had no idea that the severe effects of E. coli were life-threatening and even specific to the disease, so they failed to seek the attention and care that they should have received. Step 6 was to develop an action plan. The first step is to continue to manage food safety regulations and make sure that they are current and up to date. Bacteria, food, and food illnesses can change each day, so we constantly need to keep ourselves updated. Also, Salmonella and E. coli testing in beef products should be enforced. PulseNet was one of the very successful measures taken to improve the area of foodborne illnesses, and it basically fingerprints bacteria on a routine basis. This way, we can keep track of each case and have it filed away for future references. Step 7 includes my opinions. Personally, I think that after the number of E. coli outbreaks, there are many people that are hesitant to eat burgers from fast food chains. Also, I think that there's a probability that it can happen again. Mistakes happen, and there could be slip-ups in the food handling industry, and unfortunately, we can't catch everything. For example, there was an E. coli case with the Chipotle locations within the past few years. So I think in case this does happen again, people need to be readily prepared and be able to distinguish the effects of a life-threatening disease so we can catch it early and prevent any deaths and illnesses.